fundamentally what we're talking about here is the idea, a very old idea, right, of just doing a home buyer workshop. Tell me if you see this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, great.
I see it.
So,
yes.
What we're really talking about is the idea of getting you guys in front of either buyers or sellers, or buyers and sellers, and doing it, which you probably would want to do anyway, or probably are already doing anyway. But the key thing, the wrinkle, is that it's a wrinkle that is meant to solve the problem, which is, okay, we're happy to do a workshop. We've got plenty of people, experts in real estate, like lenders and title and home inspectors, who would be happy to talk. The question is, how do you get people in the seats? One option, of course, is to just do regular marketing, which may be great, and we'll consider that if that's something that's interesting. But fundamentally, we want to see if there's a way to do it where we can pick the target market and do it in a way where it turns out to be a win-win for everybody. We know it'll be a win for the agents. We know it'll be a win for the other speakers, and we know it'll be a win for the attendees, because they'll be able to learn something and have a one-stop shop. So the concept is that maybe rather than us investing, $500 to $1,000 in marketing to try to get people into the event, what if we identified a partner organization and we said, we want to do this as a fundraiser for your organization. We want you to promote this the same way you would a Chick-fil-A night, or the same way you would a bake sale, or the same way you would any kind of fundraiser. And we'll use our sponsors to create funds to be able to then donate to your organization. Now, that's how it's supposed to work, right? That's the vision, is that we'll connect with an organization, whether that's a PTA, whether that's a church, whether that's a pool and park, or a sports league, or a nonprofit organization, or a civic association, if I didn't already say that. And we want to pick an organization that is able to put the message in front of prospective buyers and sellers. So that's sort of the model. In terms of sort of steps, one big thing is, like any marketing effort, is to say, who do you want to reach? And that comes down to, do you want to do a home buying seminar? If you're doing a home buying seminar, then you probably want to connect with an organization that has its reach, that they can put in front of, younger people, presumably, young professionals, maybe recent grads or recent relocators to the area, to help them get exposed to it. Or if you want to connect with home sellers, which frankly right now would be great, right? I mean,
right.
The inventory is king right now. So, maybe what we do instead is we choose a topic like downsizing, or like the double transaction concept, how to buy and sell at the same time. Or even if we get creative, doing something like, how to buy a vacation home, right? We're all admiring Martha's background up there. Well, there are probably a lot of people right now that would love to have a vacation home or an investment property or what have you. So that's another topic. That's all on y'all, and I'll certainly share any of, my limited advice about that. But fundamentally, the first step is, who do we want to connect with? Because that will help us decide what organization or what marketing would be the best to focus on. I don't remember if Lisa and I talked about this, but if we think about it, you might want the feel good and the exposure that comes with doing a fundraiser for a food bank, or for a homeless shelter, or for a, helping people in another country, like a refugee relief or something like that. And that would be great. We can partner with an organization as long as their reach includes your people, right? So I talked to Habitat for Humanity today, and they have a list of about 4,000 to 5,000 volunteers, local volunteers. Well, the people who use Habitat for Humanity aren't necessarily right now the people who you are marketing to, but the people who volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or the people who are friends of Habitat for Humanity might be great people for you to reach. There's no real reason that you have to, do this only once. We can talk about doing this as frequently as you want. So it's really going to be you thinking about, is there a civic association? Is there a church? Is there a PTA that is just a home run for you? Or do you want to do a cause that's really near and dear to your heart? And we just interview them to see whether they have the right reach. So that's the first step, is deciding who you want to reach so we can strategically select a partner. Now, where do the funds come from? Well, on a typical home buyer or home seller workshop, there are sort of usual suspects, right? There's the realtor, which is you. There's a lender. There might be the home inspector for a purchase. There may be a home inspector for a sale, right? A pre-sales home inspection. We also could potentially have the title company, insurance agents, moving companies. Really, guys, these are the same types of people. Lori, you may or may not have seen this yet, but Lisa and Martha can attest to it. There are a lot of people that want to connect with you as the realtor because you're the steward of the transaction. So those types of people are the people that we want to enroll in being sponsors so that we can have a good set of funds to be able to either invest in marketing if you decide to go that way, or, and hopefully we're going to make this work, give that as a donation to the organization. And I'll talk about what we're asking from the organization and how we make sure that we choose the organization so that we're not doing all the work and they're just not doing anything, because this really works well if the organization sees this as something that they want to promote, right? Because that's the real key. And so then once we have your target market and once we have the funds from the sponsors, then we're in a position to reach out and kind of interview the organization. And so I'm going to talk about that here in a second. Fundamentally, interviewing the organization is asking them some questions. So for instance, if we're doing a PTA, for instance, we're going to say, all right, how many people do you have on your mailing list? What's your Facebook page look like? If you put out a post right now, how many people are going to see it? Because in order for us to put people in seats, we need to make sure that the market is good and the marketing is good to get them into the room. So that would be the conversation. And then when they say to you, Martha, we would love to do this for you, we're happy to do these 6 or 7 things to market it, then we will bless it. And we will say, okay, we'll put it up on the calendar. We already have our experts. We already have our topic, and we now have our partner. So now it's just about the management of it. And from my perspective, that's what I'm building, is the management tool for all of this. So I'm going to show you a page, and this is really a dummy page. Though, Lisa, I'll tell you, you're featured on it. I don't know if you've looked at it yet. You're our spokesmodel. So this is the page that will be customized based on the topic that we are choosing, or the target market and who we're raising for and everything like that. And it's weird. This runs very slow on my computer, but it runs pretty well on the internet. So that's just an unfortunate thing. Let me see if I can. Okay, it's popping up. So can you see this page right now? It says Downsizing 101.
Yes.
So this would be the title. Here would be an introductory video, either a slide, or it might be an introductory video from the realtor. This will just say sort of what we're talking about. And then here is about our speaker. And then we would probably also feature the lender here. And then what we're going to be talking about, who we're raising funds for, etc. Here's how we recognize the different sponsors. And then one idea, and this is really optional, guys, but I think it's a fun idea, is we could have a gift bag where we have a bunch of businesses that are unrelated to the transaction, say, that they make a donation of a coupon or some sort of bonus, and that way it gives a little more incentive for people to attend, maybe, but it also gives another couple $100 that we can either use as part of the gift to the organization or to even do supplemental marketing if we want. But so fundamentally, they would register to attend. This would be what people are doing up until the workshop, right? They would register. We wouldn't have company name and website. That's sort of old. But it would just be their first name and last name and email. And then we might also collect phone number. But what we can also do is after they register, we can ask them additional questions. So like from your perspective, what would be a question that you would like to ask somebody who's registering for your downsizing workshop?
I think, are you planning on making a move within the next 6 months, year, 3 years,
Sure.
Something like that, like a time frame?
Absolutely. We say, hey, great, we're looking forward to seeing you. And again, that could be just text and a video, or it can just be a list of questions, but it says, we're looking forward to seeing you. Can you answer these 4 questions? Do you, are you already working with somebody to find a house? What's your time frame? Where are you thinking about going? Are you doing this? Are you interested in this for you, or are you interested in this for your parents? Right? So all kind, we can customize it, and this is completely customizable for you guys as to how you want to do that. And so then they would come to a welcome page. They would get an email, with a reminder. And from that perspective, with regards to the buyer or the seller, we're kind of good. What we would be able to do though is, if you want to, you could have your lender follow up with them and talk about pre-approval if there's a buyer situation, and one of the options could be, would you like to talk to a lender right now, right? But again, that's completely up to you and your team. So that's sort of fundamentally how that would work. And then on the call itself, it would be either just like this, where we have our kind of Zoom, but with all the other, potentially with all the other attendees, quieted and not necessarily looking at each other. So we could do this either as a Zoom room, or we could do it as a webinar, a Zoom webinar, or another webinar. And then we talked about.
Do you mean with our sponsors?
What did I say?
Attendees. I just didn't know who would be on the Zoom call.
So the attendees would be on the call, but we might have them muted, right, and just watching. But yeah, the sponsors, it might just be you and your lender, or you might decide that you want to give your home inspector 5 minutes, or that you want to give your title person 5 minutes. We'll play around with that, and what Martha chooses to do might be different from what Lisa chooses to do, right? And truthfully, your home inspector might not want to talk, or maybe they do want to talk very much. So that's just something that we'll negotiate with them. But that's fundamentally how it would work. And I can talk about strategies. For instance, do we want to do, I'll give you just a case study, and then I'll take questions. So here's one concept. We have, Janet is a realtor. She wants to connect with homeowners in 22308 who are interested in buying a new home, selling a home. She wants to do the how to buy and sell at the same time workshop. She identifies her team and she invites them to participate. If they want to participate, great. If they don't, I have backup people for almost every category who said they would love to sponsor a workshop. So if your home inspector is not interested, or if your home inspector is non-responsive, I mean, that might be it. We need to make this easy for everybody involved. So if we invite them and they take a long time to respond, then they might be moved off the list. But then we would reach out to the PTA, and I would invite them to an info session just like this, where we say, here's what we're doing, and here's the opportunity to raise $1,000 for your organization. And then we would give them a customized link that would take them to that they can share. We would also give them a list of things that we want them to do. And they do these following actions, let's say. And then at the event, let's say for the sake of argument, we have 3 speakers, we have 6 sponsors, and we have 10 gift bag sponsors. That turns into whatever it turns into in terms of money. But then let's say we have 25 registrations and 18 attendees. Based on that, we're able to deliver $1,000 check to the organization. And afterwards, we produce a press release saying, you know, I would love it, honestly, if you guys had big giant checks, you know, you got that big giant check that you can give the organization and take a picture of yourself doing it. That would be great. Last thing I'll say is just money. Fundamentally, we want to make this very easy for the sponsors to participate. And we also are aware that one of the big questions is, are we going to spend money and nobody's going to be there, right? I mean, that's a big question. So what we're going to say is we want the sponsors, other than the realtor and the mortgage lender, we want the sponsors to commit to $100. And if they give $100, then that puts us in a situation where we can basically write a $250 or $500 check if it's 5 or 10 people at the event. But if we get 20 people at the event, we want to be able to say to the organization, if you guys get 20 people to this event, we'll write you a check for $1,000. And so I'm asking, and I've gotten zero blowback from anybody I've talked to about this. We're saying that you commit to $100, but if we get to 20 people at the event, then you commit to another $150 total for all the sponsors. And at that point, nobody has, you know, nobody except for honestly the lender. The lender is kind of who we're asking. And this, if you have your own lender, that's fine. But the lender is the person that we're asking to kind of put money up front to pay for the effort, to pay for the whole thing to be organized. But everybody else pays at the end. So we'll know exactly how many people we actually had at the event, and then they'll make their payment, and then we'll stroke a check to the organization. So I'm going to stop sharing and answer questions.